Gracie and I are at the coal mines today, and where Gracie's sitting is the middle doorway of the brick cottage, that long brick cottage you saw in the photo. It shows 3/4 of the building. That end there is missing from the photo. Now we'll start down this end here. The building itself is 37 metres long by 4.7 wide. And the start of the building is down this end here. That's where my rope line is there. And then just to the side of it here is where the separate apartments began. Now there were 10 rooms here, and the sizes of the rooms were 3.3 by 4.75, and they had slightly bigger ones at 4.2 by 4.75. So you had a room here, and here you had a hallway of 1.4 by 4.75 with a doorway over there. And then here we're in another room, and there's a fireplace here. And then we come to the next room here, and again the fireplace on this side of it, and those two fireplaces share the same chimney. So we're starting to repeat ourselves here. So we have another hallway, and now we're getting to a bit more brick walls that the brick thieves left us. So we come across to here, and we see more of the remains of a fireplace. And you can see the fireplaces here, they're probably about 1 metre down there, and then they narrow up, and then they have a small area here for the smoke to go up the chimney, and then the same again on the other side. Coming into this side, and this is one of the larger rooms, B4.2. You can see the remains here of the fireplace again, with the same design coming in there slightly, and then that's where the smoke would have gone up there. We've got a large amount of wall left here. We come to a doorway, and the beautiful sandstone block is still there, and you can still see the timber here, and that's what the timber floor would have been mounted on, using the supports there for the sandstone. And you can see here it's lime washed on the inside of the building, but it wasn't lime washed on the outside, which is quite unusual, as the overseer's cottage, which is just down there, which I believe was built earlier than this one, was lime washed on the outside. But this one here, it seems for lack of labour or lack of time, they never got round to doing the lime washing. So we'll travel further down here, and here would have been a fireplace, and then backing onto this room here would have been another fireplace as well. And we come down here, and it gets a little bit confusing here, or interesting. You have a hallway here with a room on this side, but this hallway here stops there, and even though there's a gap in those bricks, I think those are just knocked out, but I don't believe there was a doorway there. The doorway seems to be, well, here, and I'm not too sure if this sandstone, this pinkish sandstone block, was original. It does fit in there nice and neatly, I must admit. But I can see here and here where the timber would have fitted into the sandstone. So unsure as to what was going on here. Now this room here is a little bit smaller. I think it's about 3.1 by 4.6. You can see sandstone blocks here, and I thought, well, maybe there'd be a fireplace here. The foundations seem to come right out to here, but if you look on the photo, there is no fireplace chimney at the end of the building. And even here the sandstone seems to come out a little bit, as if they were anticipating placing a chimney here, but it didn't seem to happen. Now at the back here we have another 2 rooms, and just here you can see it's about under a metre. The wall starts there, it doesn't start at the back here where one would probably expect it to start. And then again my bricks come out to here, and I would guess that's a fireplace normally, but you're not seeing a chimney on that photo either. I think those chimneys, keeping in mind that they had timber shingle roofing, were kept fairly high above there, so you would have seen it in the photo if there was one. So we come across this back room here, and with the 2 rooms here, they come in at 4.1 by 3.4 each. And you can see these sandstone blocks across there where they support the wall, and here they had the sandstone under the foundations, the brick foundation slightly. These sandstone blocks here seem to be more like they are on that side of the building, on the leading front edge. We've got a wall here, and it doesn't seem to marry in to there, so again I think this is built slightly later, maybe an afterthought of when this was there, but knowing the time span of when this was built, it would have been very close to when the original building was built. You can see here remains of the bricks up there above the doorway, and then we have these beautiful sandstone steps entering this room. And it's nice to walk on this side of the building. Most people don't, they just kind of follow up as when they go up the path here, but you can see craftsmanship that go into these walls. Those brick lines aren't dead straight, I must admit, but it's still quite an awesome structure to look at, keeping in mind that there's not too many structures left down here to look at. So there's a doorway there again, and then we're travelling along here till we come to our final doorway. Now, a couple of questions that need answering is when the building was built and who was it built for. When it was built, nobody knows for sure. I would probably guess that it's probably maybe late 1846, 1847. There's a sign here that says cottages circular 1850 to 1870s, but I don't believe that's right. What they're inferring there is the civilian miners that worked these shafts after the convicts left, when the area was leased out to civilians by the government, stayed at these cottages here. Now, I believe certainly they stayed here, but I don't believe that they built them as it suggested. The reason why I'm suggesting that is because if you just took over a mining lease and you come down here with 30, 40 people, you don't send a couple down and say, okay boys, fire up the lime kiln. you guys over there pop up to the brick kiln and start producing, I don't know, 10,000 bricks, and then the rest of you go out and get some timber for the flooring, and then the remaining lot there maybe dig the foundations. So this was built by the convicts when the convicts were still here. Now there's a second theory that this used to house the first-class prisoners. Now, they were housed down there where the tree line is, in bark huts there for a while. There were 6 wards, which are basically large rooms, that contained the what they call the first-class prisoners, and they were the best behaved ones. The third-class ones were the re-offenders, and who would sleep at night up there at the separate apartments, and then the second-class prisoners would sleep in the wards down here, in the close to the ocean, that line there, and there are another lot on this side here. But there were also another building here that protruded out, and you can see just the foundations there as I'm approaching it, and that would have been big enough to hold the first-class prisoners and keep them separated enough from the second-class prisoners, which were on the other side of that wall. And then this area was closed in here with a watchtower there. You can just see the distance there, a little watchtower left in the distance. And the second thing is, I'm not sure how many first-class prisoners they were, but say they're 80 to 100, it wouldn't make sense to have all these rooms divided up as they were. You would have had just large rooms with the fireplace at one end to enable bunk beds to be placed in here, but with all these hallways, it takes up so much room that you have hardly room to place the prisoners. And keep in mind, they still were prisoners, so it would surprise me that you have a back door as well as a front door where the prisoners are. If you look at that photo, there doesn't seem to be bars on those windows. It seems to be some type of wooden frame, wooden shutter, and I haven't seen any blocks around here that have hole marks where bars would have been. So, I'm sure the first-class prisoners weren't feeding on champagne and caviar. They still were, at the end of the day, prisoners, and would have been housed in those larger rooms, what they call wards. Now there's another idea of what this building was used for, and that's to house the civilian officers that were located at the coal mines. So let's just take a quick tour of the buildings around here and work out how many rooms we had for the civilian officers that were here at the time. So we have what's known as the Assistant Superintendent and Foreman of Works cottage. I think the Foreman of Works wasn't residing here around 1845, but regardless, you've got 4 rooms here for accommodation purposes, and these rooms weren't too bad, as in each one had its own fireplace. Now in this location here, there was a brick cottage. Well, there was 4 actually. It was the guard room, office, and there were 2 overseers' quarters. This overseers' quarters here was occupied at James Hurst at an earlier stage when he was here. That had a fireplace that backed into there, and you had another overseer that slept in this room here. At one time was Henry Miller, and he did not have a fireplace. It was a smaller room down this end. So 2 overseers would have been down in this location. And here, what I call the assistant superintendent's cottage, under the Harry Potter tree. You have a building that had 2 rooms in it, but the back room was very small in regards to the front one. There's a video on it which will give you the dimensions and all that. Now we have here what is the overseer's cottage, or referred to as the overseer's cottage. It could have been an assistant superintendent's cottage. There's 2 rooms on this one. I've done a video on this previously. I'll redo it again another day where I've only put 1 room, but there's 2 rooms with a fireplace in the middle. So if we count up all the rooms there, we've got a total of 10 rooms. But by 1845 there are 4 assistant superintendents and 10 overseers down here. So you would have needed 14 rooms. Keep in mind too that it wasn't just single men down here. Most of those overseers, assistant superintendents, were married and they had children. So you couldn't just put 2 guys into one of those rooms. So I'm sure at some time down here that did happen due to the crowding. But I expect this structure here was built to house the civilian officers and give them some fairly decent accommodation, which they did not have before. If you see the next photo, it's taken a lot later than the first one, and it'll give you a better idea of what inside the building looked like. It'll show you the dividing walls, how it was laid out, probably a lot better than what my rope does at the moment. As you can see there, it gives you a bit better idea of what it used to look like. And if you're looking very closely, just on the right hand side of that photo, where the gentleman is standing, you can see a little bit of brick rubble that's past the end of this building, and that would have been where the separate apartments started. So there we have it, the civilian officers' quarters at the coal mines.